Hi, welcome to the Nexus podcast with me, Caroline Keep on Maker Education. It's been a while. It's probably been a while because I've been away on holiday and everybody's getting used to getting back to term. So I thought I'd do a quick one, and I also thought I'd get better at doing a bit more regularly one. Mainly because I've moved into my new place and my new office. So I'll probably get more of a chance. So I'm back from school, literally. So whole day teaching, as everybody knows, and you're getting back into your new curriculums. Everybody's getting into the new areas, and they're all seeing what it looks like, the new timetables, the usual. So I thought I'd do this one about planning for MakerEd. How do you go about planning the things that you want to do in school with young people? So first off, the decision to have a makerspace or to embark on some maker education lessons is the first step. You need to make that decision that you want to decide to pursue that line. Now there's lots and lots of research out there that talks about the benefits of hands-on creative learning, the benefits of having digital skills, having personal development for our young people, including our new Ofsted criteria. There's a whole bunch of research that's on the pedagogy, including Vosky. um, You've got a whole stack of it on things like Dewey and how he's seen creative based learning going forward. And a lot of it's coming in. In fact, I've seen quite a few reports out there that are coming from tests and variety of places talking about these things. So how do you start? Well, first up, you've probably got the kit you need to start in your cupboards in the sense of microbits themselves. Every school, every secondary school got microbits in the UK, so get out your microbits to start with. If you can find a room, then find a room. If you can't find a room, then find a crate. A crate will do just fine. You can roll it on and roll it off. My very first makerspace nearly 10 years ago started in a roll on, roll off fashion. So you can start with just those bits. Then just check out some of the lessons on Microbit. That's a good starting base. There's some electronics lessons on there, so effectively you can look at how the electronics work on it. And then what you want to do is start building a community base to be able to support your makerspace. It's better if you do have a room. If you feel like you don't have that argument for a room just to start with and you just want to do some more creative lessons, then that's a good way to start and see how your kids engage with them. I became one of the Ideas Award ambassadors recently. That is a brilliant way to get creative, hands on digital maker skills into your curriculum. It's the equivalent of the Duke of Edinburgh Award. It is absolutely brilliant. Go check it out. If you have a look on there, there's loads and loads of lessons. They're completely standalone. You just need a computing room to teach them, and they get some awards with them. Our school has adopted it, Hull School. Um, I also really liked that it was based on the skill building framework, which is really good, and we've put that into all of our form times, which is really useful. So that's been really positive. You want to get kit. How do you go about getting kit? Well, at first you want to ask your communities, your teachers, your all of the other classrooms that you've got, if they've got things that they're not using, pens, paper, sticky prick sticks, whatever it is that they've got, and bring it to the one location if you've got one, or to your trunk if you've got a trunk. And then you, after that, want to start asking your parents, can they bring stuff if they've got tools, they've got hammers, if they've got anything. You crowdsource your kit to start with. It's the most effective way to do it. It's also the most recycling friendly way to do it, and it'll start building a repertoire of equipment that then you can use later. It takes some time to build a real framework, and I'm acutely aware of this. So I built our framework. I recently tweeted our first year 7 framework. It's open source. It's based on a lot of open source lessons that are out there and some that we've designed to cater. It's 6 in a year that everybody gets. I will send it across to Nexus so they can put it somewhere as well so you can access the whole thing. And you can download that to have a look at how we've structured ours and then move forward from there. It'll give you the basis to set off your year 7 so you can give them some of those creative, more digitally competent sort of lessons that are in there. If you, one of the biggest things that I think I see with teachers, especially when I'm training teachers, is there's a certain amount of fear with regarding Maker Ed. There's a certain amount of how will we get the kit, how will we do it, how will we judge it, how will we assess it, how will we look at the entire thing. And there's always a certain amount of worry that they're not going to know what they're doing. It's one of the biggest fears that I think teachers as a whole, no matter what kind of new thing you're implementing, need to kind of move beyond being the facilitator in the classroom to being the knowledge in a classroom, and it being direct instruction. So what you want to do is move towards more facilitating roles in your classrooms. So as you set up those groups, your job is to make sure that they continue to stay on track for the project itself, and make sure that they explore the learning in a way that will progress them step by step to the goal that you want it to. So, for example, some of the 3D printing lessons that I've done for Create Education are on their website. One of the first things I seen was that you needed a certain amount of skills in understanding 3D objects before you can get onto 3D printing. So I designed one that was for understanding the shapes of 3D objects and what exactly we're looking, how we describe, various amounts of 3D objects themselves. So things like, where are the vertices? You'll know these from maths. What shapes have we got? What do they look like? How do they fit together? How can you see them in buildings? How can you see them in objects in everyday life? And it gives a good starting level to be able to understand what comes next. You've got to really build those foundation skills in the beginning. Don't assume that our students have a good understanding of digital. I've seen lots of people talk about digital skills, and lots of people talk about things like digital natives, and our young people are using computers, and why would we need to teach them? And one of the analogies I do is, well, I use plumbing every day, but I wouldn't actually know how to fix any of your pipes. Does that make me an expert plumber? Using technology every day doesn't necessarily make you an expert in the industry skills that we need going forward. So you've got to build those foundation skills to start with, and that's why we have adopted the skills building framework, which is excellently and thoroughly researched, to build some of those foundation listening and creative and problem solving skills, and understand how groups work, how you can be a better productive person in a group, so that you can take those digital skills and build upon them as a fully rounded personal development. So going forward, I'm busy writing up the research from ours. So when I'm finished with that, I'll put that out there. What I'd suggest you do when you first start planning is start thinking about what resources you've got, what expertise you've got, and who in the community you have got in your school. The community is so key. It is the community of learners and the community of teachers that will make a makerspace. And it's those learners and those teachers, you need them to be very involved from the very beginning. So we surveyed all of our staff and our kids about what kinds of projects they wanted to do, what kinds of things they were into, what kinds of things they'd like to build. We gave them the range of technology so we knew what kind of space we'd end up with. And then we went and looked and designed lessons that taught them those specific skills. So today I've just come back from 3D printing and resin printing today. So we've got some resin printers in for our 3D wearables group that are currently designing themselves various wearable technology and various 3D printing projects. They're a very, very keen group of young people that are very interested, and that leads into things like DT, and it leads into things like design, it leads into art, it leads into maths. So that really, really serves them for that. But through the ideas, we've been able to make that almost a qualificationary system, where we've had young people now going through the steps of each badge and learning more enough to get the badges to be able to get a award from Buckingham Palace for it. So it's a really, really great one, the Ideas Award. I'd probably start with microbits. I'd start with the Ideas Award. They're the two things that are really, really straightforward for any teacher to do that's really valuable. They're teaching personal development skills that we currently don't teach. And they're really, really straightforward to use. Any teacher, I'd recommend do the Ideas Award. Get yourself on there, get yourself used to the kind of language and the kind of technology that's being used and the digital skills that are there. There's a great one on GPDR that even had me like, oh. So you want to get used to those kinds of technology that's there, and make sure that you structure it like a curriculum. It's one of the mistakes I think we made in the early days of trying to put in a pathway. First we ran it as enrichment, and then we decided to do it as a bespoke offer. But then as time's gone on, we've realised that really what we needed to do was treat it as a curriculum. So now we treat it as a curriculum in its entirety. So as you progress in, treat it as such. What you do with your curriculum, you do with this. So if you structure out your lessons or you structure out how it looks, you do your lesson plans for it, you structure it out the same. It's just a very well resourced lesson that's slightly different, and you treat it as if you're facilitating in that lesson a specific set of skills. I'll share all my bits with from my first year 7 curriculum with Nexus, and I wish you every inch of luck as you go along. If you want to ask questions, you know where I'm at. It's at KA1 on Twitter, and I'll share any of the years as we get them fine tuned. Thanks very much. Bye.